the question is, why we publish this book then? It was published by the effort of my own church. I'm a priest in New York City. And also we kind of established a publication center, Father George Florovsky Memorial Research and Publication Center at Christ the Savior Orthodox Church. Why? Because Father George was very close to Christ the Savior Cathedral in New York City. A friend of ours came from Odessa. She's a professor at Odessa University, Professor Inna Golubovich. And she came here as a researcher of Father George Florovsky, of his legacy, of his archives, and so on and so forth. Because she is a director of George Florovsky Center at Odessa. Father George was educated, was raised in Odessa. He was educated at Odessa University, and he taught there before he had to immigrate and went to Prague, and then to Paris, and then to the United States, and so on and so forth. So, and she found in his archives the whole file on Christ the Savior Church, because it was partly of Christ the Savior Church at St. Vladimir Seminary, well before it purchased its campus in Crestwood, had its classes at Christ the Savior. And it happened also that Father George served his last liturgy at Christ the Savior. I distinctly remember that. His friend Andrew Blaine brought him to us. You know, I knew Father George while I was studying at St. That's another story. So, and he served his liturgy, gave his last sermon. It happened to be his last sermon, and then he passed away in a week. So it was last liturgy in his life. So it's a little preamble. But now we go to actually your book, because the book which was published here in English originated in St. Nicholas Cathedral and was written by its future dean and completed by its actual dean. I mean, Father Dmitry Grigorieff of blessed memory. I remember quite a few years ago in our dinner meeting, when we gave reports on development of our parishes, Father Koblash, I remember, told about a kind of new addition in his St. Nicholas Cathedral in Whitestone, that a policeman joined his parish with big policeman family, and he was of Irish background. He was Irish policeman, and he became very active with his family in the church life. And once he told in the parish meeting, look, the Orthodox Church in America is the best kept secret in the United States. He probably was over enthusiastic about it, but he said, if Americans knew, you know, it would spread, you know, catch up and spread like a fire in a dry forest. I don't know whether it's true or not, but here the translator came, Paul Grenier, and obviously you know him, and we are very grateful to him for the existence of this book, because he translated it and kept it in his office for five years, until just it slipped from his tongue that he translated the book of Father George. But no one wanted to publish it. So I was blessed to jump right away and said, we'll publish it. So, and the rest, you know, you will see. So, but it's Paul, and we can applaud him here. Thank you, Paul, very much. And obviously, his wife, Professor Svetlana Grigorieff, whose hand I also see in editing of my preface. And probably other things as well. And so it was a lot of work that we did together in order to publish this book into, you know, in this form. But now, why for spreading of Orthodoxy, for telling about the OCA, it's so important to have the history of OCA, the OCA Church, kind of a historical account. Look, if you decide to hire someone, what you first ask? CV, send me CV first. Your curriculum vitae. What is your background? Where you're born? You know, where you have where you have your education? What your work? What is your experience? Then, after the CV, after you have this perception of a person's life and development, you may desire to call him or her and invite to personal interview, so to say. So, in order to know what the church is, particularly such things as Orthodox Church, pretty complicated reality, as you know, spread all over many Slavic countries. And the first questions they ask you, if you say, I'm Orthodox, which Orthodox? Are you Greek Orthodox? Are you Russian Orthodox? Are you kind of Serbian Orthodox? And obviously it's so easy to ask these questions, because just passing by, you see huge Greek Hagia Sophia Cathedral, right? So we all kind of came from some kind of background. And you answer, I'm an American Orthodox. Never heard of it. What is this? What is it? So, you have first of all to present biography. Biography of your church. You know, the Lord loved to give us parables of something growing, of plants, of seeds, you know, because as one Russian famous translator and children poet and also Marshak wrote, a human being, let him be the genius, nevertheless remains the growing plant. Человек, хоть будет трижды гением, остается мыслящим растением. Because we are growing all the time. And we are growing all the time, and usually we grow into one direction. Right? And it's difficult to change your direction while you're growing. All of a sudden to something else. So in order to know what the kind of phenomenon church is, you need to know its growth. You remember this book because it was written in Russian. And it was written in Russian and it states here, it's called From Balaam to the New World. I will explain to you the meaning of these words. I'm also a historian. And for the last 25 years, I'm also writing a history, essays on the history of Orthodox Church in America, because it's, you know, it's complicated reality. But my first teacher was Father George. I remember already it said, obviously it was in St. Vladimir Seminary, Father John Meyendorf said, Misha, it was my name at that time, why you wouldn't write a thesis about our church? He always loved to promote, you know, historical research about the roots of OCA in this continent, I would say, not just country, on this continent. And so he said, you know, Russians don't know anything about it, write about it. So I started, but the first book which I found was a thesis by Father Grigorieff, which was called The History of Russian Metropolia in the United States. And this thesis was written in 1958. Therefore, there was no any question about autocephaly. It was just to metropolia without any view of its future, how it will develop, how it will evolve, to what. So the idea of actually of independent local church came rather later. Actually, if you want to know the detail, with Professor Bogolepov, who was a canon law teacher at St. Vladimir Seminary. He was a very old man. I wanted to see this man, and I met him at sick leave. He lived with his daughter, who was at that time a warden of the church, and he was 94. Very kind of, you know, kind of concentrated old man. And I had a great respect of him because while still in Russia, I read his articles and on the church, very succinctly written, obviously in the West. He was the first elected rector of St. Petersburg University in 1918. Then he had to emigrate and he lived in many countries. Then he came to this country, taught at St. Vladimir Seminary, and wrote his book in 1963, Toward the Autocephaly of American Church. And that's in this book, he described the canonical foundation, how metropolia can become independent local church because it has all necessary conditions. So, and after that, the idea came to the mind of some leaders of the church, and they start to try to work, try waters, what to be, how it will become, so to say, independent church. But in 58, obviously it was not, and therefore Father Dmitry called it From Balaam to the New World. When he decided to update his work, he was rather an old man, so, and actually he kept the same title. So he obviously brought his book to the present, and actually to the present already well after Autocephaly. But his audience, and it's very important, his addressee was not American audience, but Russian audience. He wanted to know them, to give Russians to know about the fruit of the Russian missionaries, to boast on what it achieved by bringing into existence a new independent autocephalous church in America. Because at that time, after the communists fell, and communism, and the church became independent, many rumors and ideas emerged in this church. Why not to bring Orthodox Church in America back under the Moscow Church, under Moscow Patriarchate? So obviously that's why I'm saying how important is to see where the plant is growing. You cannot go back into your beginning. As Nicodemus, famous Nicodemus in the third chapter of Gospel of John, not quite understanding what the Lord said, asks him, how the old man can be born again? He definitely cannot enter the second time into his mother's womb. So definitely we cannot enter second time into our mother's womb. We're too big for it. And that's exactly why Father Grigorieff wrote this book, actually named it this way. He didn't read it, he didn't rename it to the Orthodox Church in America. He left his old title. And therefore, the book was printed and published by St. Tikhon Institute in Moscow. Rather conservative place, but very respectable. So, and Father Grigorieff, those who remember him, as you know, he was obviously, he was a Russian patriot. He was, he taught Russian language, he taught Russian literature, he was the son of Russian diplomat, he grew up in Pre-Baltic Republic of, I believe, Latvia, anyway, in Russian community. So he kind of lived with all these Russian sentiments all his life. But he was an American missionary. It is interesting that you obviously heard and probably saw and knew this monastery upstate in New York, New Skid. As a former Franciscan monastery had joined our church in 1971, 72, right after Autocephaly. I thought that they learned about it in St. Vladimir Seminary, but they told me I was very friendly with them. I even buried my father in their cemetery. So they said, no. We learned by chance when we came to Washington, and we come to some kind of Lumen, whatever, Oriental Lumen conference, and there was a father, I don't need, thank you, I have my coffee, don't worry about it. And they met Father Grigorieff, And he took them to Cathedral, and then he told them about OCA. They were so impressed that they invited him, said, let's go and, you give a lecture in our monastery. And they drove him there. It was 10 hours. And I remember Father Dmitry, kind of easygoing, he just very simply, without any propaganda, he told the history of our church. History, simply, historical way. And it was so impressive that they decided, why wouldn't we join it? They were Franciscans of Oriental Rite, of Byzantine Rite. And they say, we are in the middle, we are not in Catholic Church we are fringe, so, and they joined, and they stay here for 30 years. So, Father Dmitry looked at both ways. And being a very intelligent man, and very open, and very tolerant, as you remember, he invited everybody in this cathedral, and to serve and so on and so forth. So obviously it's our national cathedral. But it started as a a Russian church. And then it growing, became your national cathedral. Here is the book about it. So, obviously there are several accounts of Orthodox Church which you can find even two on our website, oc.org. There is brief history written by Grigorieff. There is a book on PDF written by Father Kishkovsky and Mark Stockow, but it's called Orthodox Christians in the United States. Obviously it's written from the OCA perspective. But what is unique about this book? First of all, Father Dmitry was one of the first researchers. He was a pioneer of this history. And actually, out of respect for him, and also this book has several advantages. It's concise, it's popular, it's easily written, and it gives you the whole history, so to say. It gives you the whole, from the perspective, obviously, of Russian mission, how it grew into independent autocephalous church. You have your friends, you have people whom you probably would love to bring to your church and who may ask questions, and that's a very easy answer. You just give us your to read it, and you know who we are. So now I tell you, I came here with a purse. It's a money bag. It's empty money bag. We published this book and we're selling it. And it's $20. I tell you why 20. You sell your Russians for 18, as I learned. But you see, there's my preface, this is my afterword, and I count it as $2. Adding to the cost. It's worth investment, I tell you. For Orthodox Christians, for those who are OCA, members of the OCA, and actually it is the only book about OCA which has a big chapter on St. Nicholas Cathedral, written by Father Dmitry. So it is, so to say, it's your book per se, so to say, So any questions? And then, first of all, obviously, I have to thank, first of all, the main steering committee behind this book and publication, Irina. Thank you. Really, she helped us to publish it financially. She was behind every stage of it. First of all, on the stage of translation, and then when we discussed already when it came to my hands, she was kind of monitoring it on every stage, helping out. And actually, we kind of publish it together. And so, and therefore, I entrusted this money bag into her hands. It's completely. So, if you want to purchase it, please do so. If you want to ask questions, definitely you must mail. Yes, those of you who want to have the book, obviously I cannot ask Father Dmitry to sign it for us, but I can sign it in his memory, because definitely the book is written, the book is published, you know, in its form as in his memory. If you don't have cash with you, and if you want to leave a check, make it to Holy Patriarch Tikhon Society. It's a society and small kind of fund in our church that, this is a publication center. It does have its accounts and so forth. So, but it's public, from which we finance our little kind of efforts, whether we help out to people, whether we give little grants, whether we publish something. It's obviously not a huge fund. I wouldn't even tell you how little money it has. Not to discourage you. But anyway, that's how it could be done. So, and we hope to continue this work, because I believe that every church entitled to have its history, and history always evolves because you write more and more of it. You discover more and more of it. As remember, the conscience of Church of England began with Bedes of Venerable, who wrote in the 6th century the history of the Church of England. We are now in 21st century, but it's the history of the Church in America. That's our response to Bedes the Venerable.
Thank you so much.
If we don't have enough money, they will be available through the gift shop.
I think it will. Yes, yeah. It could be worked out. It could be worked out. Second, this is yours.
Yes, Father Michael, thank you so much, and of course, wonderful live presentation, and Father Michael, author of books himself and articles, and he speaks at the academic conferences all the time about history of Orthodoxy in America. And what is interesting to kind of, by reading the book and you revisit and you meet in the person actually. And Father Grigorieff, many of us knew him only in the last period of his life. But we just, without thinking it, we owe to him with two things which we did today. Number one, Father Grigorieff was the priest who served first English liturgy here in St. Nicholas. Everything was in Church Slavonic, and he had to take small group of the English-speaking zealots to the basement of National Cathedral. And when the community grew up, they moved here and started to serve. Because it was not easy task to change language in the church, trust me. And number two, so all of us, without even meeting Father Grigorieff, we enjoy fruit of his labor. We pray in the language of the land in this cathedral. And number two, while he was a dean, iconography project was completed. So for 30 years, cathedral stood with the white walls. And then Father Dmitry traveled to Moscow with the group of people. Of course, Gerish family were involved, and Yevsikov family were involved, and Tolstoy family were involved, many people. But Father Dmitry was big part of our iconography, so why we today lighted the candles again. We met Father Grigorieff in the labor of his fruit, our beautiful icons. So please approach, and I read this book 10 years ago when it was published in Russian, and it's worth to read, and it has chapters, St. Nicholas Cathedral history. And again, thank you so much, Irina, and thank you so much, Father Michael, thank you so much for Paul Grenier, and all who supported this project. So may God bless all of us.